Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Lord of the Rings of Power is a huge failure. A huge failure. So, when Season 1 released, okay, much views were happening, allegedly, according to Amazon, although they couldn't hide the fact that from Episode 1 to the Season 1 finale, they lost 63% of the audience. Well, it's even worse now. Even worse. So, for Season 2... there is a 50% reduction in viewership from Season 1 to Season 2. This is the biggest budgeted TV series of all time. Huge budget. And it's an epic failure. So, yeah, I mean, it says near 50% decline. But it is 50% decline. It's a 50% drop-off. Which does actually make a lot of sense. Because, you know, when you're doing just incredible things like this... Humanizing Orcs, saying that these orcs, you know, they just want to have a place down by the sea and have a cottage. Yeah, they quite literally do say that. This is the showrunners, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, what if one day there could be a place just for us? This is them speaking as if they're orcs. We could have our own little land and our own little cottage by the sea. No one wants to watch this shit. It's just boring. And it's a bastardization of Tolkien's works. An insult. From people that fundamentally don't understand the material that they're working with. You know, it's all well and good being like, well, it's fantasy, so my fantasy. Okay, so stop humanizing everything then. And anyway, like I said, fundamentally it's boring. You know, from a screenwriting perspective, it fails on multiple levels. What are people's aims at the moment? What are their goals? What are their obstacles that they're coming in between? You know, on a screenwriting level, it fails at these very fundamental beats that are supposed to happen, especially for the audience to get involved. So let's take a look at this, because I can't imagine Amazon is going to be massively happy about this, obviously. And we'll see some very interesting things moving forwards, I'm sure. So, The Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2 premiere reportedly suffered a nearly 50% decline in viewership compared to its Season 1 premiere. And it says here, look, the new season of Rings of Power is out with 902,000 US households tuning in over the last 5 days to watch the first episode. This is from Samba TV. Now, Samba TV isn't the build and end all, right? Like, they don't calculate every single view. It's just those that are signed up to Samba TV and have that as something which is a tracking tool. But Samba TV is comparing Samba TV to Samba TV, or, well, we're comparing Samba TV to Samba TV. So it's a direct comparison, and they lost 50% of the audience, because this was over 5 days, right? This is over 5 days. Now, the previous tracking which they did was over 4 days, and it got 1.8 million viewership, right? So if this is over 5 days, a whole extra day, and it's only 902,000. If you were to compare it like for like, yeah, it'd be 50%. It might even be less. No, sorry. It might even be more than 50% that couldn't be bothered to tune in. And you can see it here, look. So back in February 2023, following the conclusion of the show's first season, Samba TV revealed that the premiere episode of the show was watched by 1.8 million US households in its first 4 days after release, and it would eventually rack up 3.3 million views in its first 15 days. That's still not great either, to be honest. You know, only 3.3 million views in, 15 days. I mean, these numbers are just not great, not for Tolkien's works. If this was, if this was respectful to the material, it would be significantly higher viewership. If you weren't wheeling out like black elves randomly and having like all these just bizarre things. It's an Americanization of, what was designed to be a folk story for Europeans. Because that's what Tolkien designed it as, a modern myth, a modern folklore for Europeans. So it isn't supposed to have people that look like Americans. It's not supposed to have black people. It just isn't supposed to do that. There's fundamental reasons why there are certain things the way it is in the show. Yeah, sure, you can bring it into the modern era, but then it's not what it what it was created as, what it was conceptualized as. It just isn't. And that's not to say black people don't belong in high fantasy and things like this. Obviously not. That's just nonsense. Like, of course they do. But don't bastardize something just to bring people in. Everyone can just enjoy stuff, right? Everyone can just watch stuff and enjoy. I mean, look at Black Myth Wukong. It's an anthropomorphic monkey man. That's sold incredibly well. Sold better than Star Wars Outlaws. It will sell better than Assassin's Creed Shadows when that eventually gets released. People don't care. People don't need to see themselves. Some people do, but they don't buy stuff. So stop catering to them at the end of the day. So anyway, let's take a look at a little bit more information here. So obviously the decline from 1.8 to 902,000 is a whopping 49.8%. But again, different time periods. And it says this: while the decline is massive, it's not really surprising given a report from Kim Masters at The Hollywood Reporter back in April 2023, which revealed that 63% of individuals who watched part of the show's premiere back in 2022 did not complete the show. So it's quite interesting, actually, that directly correlates over to people just going, no, I'm done. I'm done. Because not only have you obviously lost pretty much all of those people, but the amount of people that you gained between the whole season being out and being available and people watching it, it goes to show that it wasn't good enough for it to capture a new audience. It's just stagnant. Well, it's a decline, right? I mean, that's brutal. If that isn't an indictment on how horrendous your writing is, I don't know what is. That's awful. There are some shows, right, that go on to become cult classics, hugely popular, because they found a new lease of life after their release, or there's some shows which have been out for like decades that are way more popular than this brand new show, and that's because they're good. They find a new audience. This has been out now for like 2 years, and it's not found a new audience, which is really, really telling just how bad it is. Now, interestingly, those outside of the States were slightly better. So, but still worse though. Still like, bad. Apparently the completion rate was 45%. So still, 55% of people decided to disappear, which is not great. And like I said, it's because of dumb stuff like this, like humanizing orcs, like giving orcs, giving them like babies and stuff. Like, people aren't interested in this shit. People don't care about this. It's lame. It's super lame. And you can actually see this in the reviews. So those that want to review it is declining. And even the score is declining. So 8.9 thousand reviewed the first episode on IMDb. Probably slightly more now. And they gave it a 7.3%. Episode 2 was 7.1, but only 6.8 thousand. So basically, just lost 2.1 thousand people to review it. And then episode 3 was 6.4 and is 6.2 thousand. So lost another 600 people reviewing it. So it just speaks volumes to how bad this show is. I haven't watched episode 4 yet. I will have to review it here for you guys. But let me know what you think down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye now.